If you've been listening in for a while, you will have heard us mention our very exciting news that we've got our very own book coming out. As the publication date approaches next week on Thursday, the 27th of February, we thought it was time to delve deep into why we decided on a book, how we found writing a book, and what you can expect when reading it. On today's podcast, we're talking about reset your home, unpack your emotions and your clutter step by step.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more. Or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, Leslie, this is very exciting, isn't it? We can finally kind of really tell everyone the ins and outs of our book and how it all happened.
It does seem like a really important podcast somehow to talk about, doesn't it? But yes, it is exciting news. It's only a week, less than a week until the publication of our book. It seems to have been forever since the idea first originated. In fact, it was December 2022 when this book was first spoken about, not by Ingrid and I, but that was when we were first approached by Bloomsbury, who is a UK-based top 10 publishing house. And the lovely Holly, who is now our commissioning editor, who we love deeply because she's like steered the ship the whole way through, contacted us. So she had been listening into our podcast for a while, hadn't she? She works for an arm of Bloomsbury called Green Tree that deal with like self-help, self-development type books. And at first, when she was listening to the podcast, just for herself, for her own decluttering at home, she didn't think it would fit. But then as she continued to listen and she realized the way that we teach decluttering here, she was like, it will absolutely resonate with our audiences. So she reached out to us, didn't she? Sent a little email and we were like, oh, this is like, and then we went on a meeting with Holly and the rest is history, as they say. So how did it all go down, Ingrid?
I know. So we had our meeting and she's like, girls, have you ever thought about writing a book? And we were a bit like, well, yeah, the thought has crossed our minds, but one day we're going to try and make a book, but how do you find the time to write a book if you put it on your one-day list? And as we know, listeners, one day is not a day of the week. So we had been kind of talking about it, but kind of, yeah, if we get some time, we'll write it. And Holly was like, but this is an important message that you got. You girls really need to think about this. So we had a conversation and we actually said, you know what, if Bloomsbury want us to write a book, who are we to say that we don't want to do it? We do want to do this. And we just kind of took it from there. And then, of course, it's a waiting game. You have to kind of give all information. And then she has to kind of run it past other people. And then, yeah, it took a while. But then finally, we had the green light to say, yes, you're a go. This book is on. And yeah, we've kind of... That was already, again, nearly 2 years ago, right? The time just, I don't even know where the time's gone, Leslie. I can't even believe it.
I know. So we felt we can both remember where we were when we heard the news, because it was so exciting, because we didn't know whether this was going to happen or not, because it was not just up to Holly, it was up to other people, of course. I mean, she was really into it and really wanted it for us. It was fabulous. So we went through the whole process of submitting sample chapters, so they had to check that our writing was okay. We need to tell them a lot about our audience, about you lovely people, and what kind of things you like, what you don't like, all of the things that we've done with our challenges and things like that. So we had to go through that whole process. And finally, in July 23, we got the green light to go ahead and start writing.
Yeah.
So then the hard work was on then, Ingrid. So how did we get it? Then it was like, okay, now that was fun saying that
Yeah,
you can write a book. Now we've actually got to write it.
I
You know?
know, I know.
So tell us a little bit about the process of writing the book, Ingrid.
Well, I think we first kind of had to figure out like what do we want this book to be about? You know, of course you kind of think, okay, great. Yeah, of course we know we're going to be talking about decluttering and organizing, but what's important? What's our message? What are the things that are important to us? We know so much about decluttering. We cannot put everything we know in one book. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to pick and choose? So we had a lot of conversations ourselves before we even, started writing one word. And of course, then I got into a whole panic because I'm like, but I'm not even a native speaker. I can't write. Leslie, you're like the best person of us to write this book. So how are we going to do this? And yeah, so we had actually quite a lot of talks at the time as well. Like, what is the best approach?
It was really important, Ingrid, for us to be true to our messaging, which is emotional-based decluttering, like always emotions-based decluttering. We want to make sure that people tackle emotions first, stuff second. And that thread runs right through the book. And we're going to talk about the structure of the book and the chapters a little bit later. But basically, it had to be about that. So, so important to us. If we weren't allowed to write a book about that, then we weren't going to write a book at all. So that was really, really important to us.
Yeah.
So then we started really thinking about how do we, how can we put these chapters together? And I think based on the kind of emotions-based decluttering side of it, it was really important for us to explain that before you get stuck into doing any decluttering, doing any doing, you have to do the thinking. Our Reset Your Home system is all about thought by thought, room by room, day by day. So it's very much based on that thinking philosophy first. You have to do the thinking, the learning, you have to understand yourself, you have to understand your emotions as best you can before you even try to get rid of an item from your home. And so we wanted to try and bring that across because it's a different type of scenario than a lot of people will teach. And so we decided very early on that in each chapter that we write, we were going to have two main sections, the thinking of decluttering and the doing of decluttering. So it's very much, there is a section about the emotional side of it, and we delve deep into the emotional side of it. And then there is a section on the doing side of it. So we take people step by step. So as the title suggests, we go unpack your emotions and your clutter step by step. So we take you step by step through the emotional kind of difficulty with decluttering, and then we take you step by step through the doing. How do you actually declutter and organize a room? And that's the premise about on which the whole book is built, right?
Yeah, and I think it really works very well, Leslie, as well with how kind of we are ourselves as well. So it all starts to come together, I think, because, as a lot of people might or might not know, I'm kind of always kind of seen as the practical one, and Leslie's always more the emotional one. And so dividing the chapters up like that as well, I think really worked for us. And a little bit more about that later when we tell you a bit more kind of how with the whole process. But I think it starts to all come together, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as is my want, writing the book and thinking about that wasn't enough. So I started to think about other things that we could do with the book. And my son Luke is an illustrator. So he, not on the side, he's got another job, but on the side of it, he illustrates and draws. And so I was like, it would be so cool if we could get some illustrations done from within the family. So I asked Luke to get involved at that stage. And so he's done all the illustrations for the book, which has added a whole extra little dimension in it, hasn't it, Ingrid, to make it, because it feels very personal when you're writing a book. And it's just nice to have more personal stuff in there. So Luke wrote the
Mhm.
illustrations. So we got him on board as well. We got that approved by Bloomsbury. They were super happy for that to happen. So then we started writing. And
Yeah.
we kind of put a schedule together. So we needed to look, because obviously it would have been so nice to go to the south of France on the side of a mountain and just sip wine and write. But that was sadly not the way that we could do it because we were doing challenges, we were still recording podcasts, we were,
Yeah.
teaching things in our membership, going live every week. And so we've already got quite a hectic schedule here at the Declutter Hub. So we were like, how are we going to kind of fit this in? And so we tried to make it work. And, as Ingrid said, I did most of the writing. And so we needed to make sure that I had a couple of days a week at least where it was kind of uninterrupted time to write as best we could. Didn't always happen that way, sadly. But that was the plan. Everything starts with a plan. So we planned to make that happen, and we wanted to get through one chapter per month. Now, luckily with Bloomsbury, we're in something that's called slow publishing. So it does take a couple of years for a book to go from inception to publication. And so that's where it started. So luckily we had time. And even though 2 years sounded like so long when
Yeah, I
Holly first
know.
mentioned it, we absolutely needed that time to get through the whole process, right?
Yeah, we were like, wow, why is it 2 years? How hard can it be? Well, we know now that you actually do need this time, and that, even when you put a whole plan together, curveballs, came our way. I had a really, really tough year last year, personally, with a lot going on. So that put a lot of pressure on, and it was a hard time, but we knew that this deadline was looming. And in the beginning, you think we've got plenty of time, but then when suddenly when the going gets tough and things kind of are out of whack a little bit, it's like, wow, the pressure is on. And you did an amazing job, Leslie. I can't say otherwise, because you actually you were like, well, I have to write this book. And of course, in the background, I was trying to, personally get things back on the rails, and of course, keep all the other stuff on the Declutter Hub going as best as I could. So, yeah, it was not of the easiest of years, but we pulled through, and
Yeah.
yeah, kind of chapter by chapter. You wrote it, yeah, and then of course, Holly was involved the whole time, giving amazing advice and pointers and changes, and helped us think about all of the structures. And of course, I read every chapter, and you would kind of suddenly on WhatsApp, I need some examples, Ingrid. And I'm like, oh, examples about what, where are we now? So, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, and I think for me, what was interesting was we know this stuff, so we know how to teach how to declutter a bathroom, for example, because we've done it many, many times, and we've got a lot of examples that we
Mm,
pull on when we're doing our live teaching, when we're doing our podcast, when we're doing our challenges and things like that. So the information was already there, so it wasn't something we didn't need to conceptualize it as such. But the interesting thing, I think, for me, working with somebody who's such a fantastic editor as Holly, was that she can take ourselves out of it as a novice to decluttering and go, I'm losing the thread a little bit here. So can we pull the structure back in? Can we formulate it a little bit that way, or emphasize that a little bit more, or give some more examples here? So I think it wasn't the content as such that needed to be refined, or indeed the writing was kind of okay. It was more about the structure for the reader. And I found that so fascinating, because Ingrid and I, when we first started the Declutter Hub, purposely did a podcast because we knew that we were much better at speaking than writing, or we thought that we were at the time. It seems to now
at the
be
time.
okay with the writing
Yeah.
side of things, but that's
Yeah.
what we did. And so we're used to talking things through. You've got nuance, people know who you are, but going out to a fresh new audience, some of whom won't know who we are when they read the book, hopefully, it's a very, very different thing. And so I think we're used to talking to our existing audience a lot, people who know us. And I think that's where it was different. So it couldn't be done without, an editor as good as Holly, and,
Mm.
to pull the structure together. Fantastic, and I loved it and learned a lot. And so fast forward 13 chapters, and we got to the end of what Holly, we did, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 pass-throughs, refined. And then we got to the stage of it going to the sort of proofreading, the copy editor side of it. So this is where you start looking at grammar and capitalization and consistency and all that. And then Holly handed over, well, not really handed over, worked in conjunction with Sarah, who's our other fantastic, more of a copy editor. So she's more about the detail of it. Holly was more about the structure and the content and the idea. And Sarah's very much about the proofreading and manages that part of the process. And we found that part of we found it all completely fascinating, didn't
Yeah,
we, Ingrid?
yeah,
Absolutely loved it.
yeah,
So we can't thank them enough for bringing our ideas really to life and to making sure that they're the best that they can be. So, but to say that you've got to read something a million times, and it's like, just like, I don't want to read it again. I've had enough reading it. So I mean, so it was interesting. So I think we've really enjoyed the process, I
yeah.
think, in what was indeed quite a tough time, really,
Mhm.
from a business perspective and from a personal perspective. So I can't actually believe that we managed to do it. Of course,
Yeah,
Holly and Sarah were like delighted because we're quite organized. And if we've got a deadline, we always reach it. And so they were like, this is amazing.
yeah,
Um, so much so that when it came to the publication date, it was supposed to be in April this year. And Bloomsbury were changing, so they were changing warehouses or something. So there was some
yeah.
kind of logistical potential problem with distribution. And so they were trying to bring the publication dates of some books forward. And ours was one of the ones that they said, can we bring it forward? And we're like, yep. And so that's what we did. So everything was a little bit kind of chaotic towards the end, wasn't it? Because we were squeezing a little bit of time out, weren't we? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, so loved the writing of the book, learned an awful lot personally, became more confident with the fact that we're not just about talking, we can actually write together as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so all good fun.
Yeah, it was really good. And I mean, even the title, Leslie, the title. Let's talk about the title. That was, I mean, Reset Your Home. That was easy. But then the subtitle and thinking about all the options that we have, and you drafting so many options and then being on the phone with each other while I was driving somewhere, like, how does this sound? And this one, and this one, and this one. And then trying to figure it all out. And then we got stuck on a word, and my son Max helped us out with finding the right word for it. So he now thinks he can take credit for this whole book because of the one word on the subtitle.
Yeah, exactly. No, so it's
And
things like that. And the book cover, of
yeah,
course, getting that signed off and everything, because all
yeah,
these
but
things
I
do.
love it. I think it's
Yeah,
so pretty. It's so pretty. I must say, I was really, really happy about how it all just came together, didn't it? It all just came together.
absolutely. No, so it's something that we're super proud of. So let's go to a break, Ingrid, and let's talk about what the book's all about inside, yeah?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are talking about our book, Reset Your Home, Unpack Your Emotions and Your Clutter Step by Step. That is coming out next week. And we're talking about how it all came about and what an exciting time we've had here since November 2022, when the first kind of it all started. And now we are February 2025, and we're finally here. And it seems so long, but it's gone so fast.
I know, exactly. So I think, we enjoyed the process. We've enjoyed the whole process.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is all about. It's all about whether or not you guys enjoy reading it. And so what is in the book? How does it all fit together? What sort of content have we got in there? And what can you expect from the book? So basically, I've already mentioned that every chapter is formulated with emotions-based decluttering at its heart. And so every chapter will start with a little intro, and then we go into the thinking side of things, then we go into the doing side of things. And so it really is a step-by-step, in depth. It's really in depth. At the moment, I've had my gorgeous clutter fairies reading it. Ingrid's had her organize your house people. We've had some colleagues reading it, and they're all saying the same thing, which is it's really in depth. And we are really in depth people because we believe to get the best decluttering journey that you need to go to a granular level. And so we make no excuse for that. We make no apology for that. It is detailed. And so it will give you what you need to undergo a decluttering journey. So yeah, every chapter in each room is split down into the thinking and the doing. Ingrid, what's our first chapters about before we even go into the rooms?
Yeah, so our first couple of chapters, we talk about emotions first and stuff second. Then we to have a chapter about where we explain the different clutter personalities that we have seen within people who have clutter. And then we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of decluttering. And then we're going to dive into all the rooms with the thinking and the doing. So we really set you up first, again, to do some thinking before you even get started with decluttering in, for example, with the first chapter, the kitchen.
Yes, we make notes. We know everybody knows who's followed us along in challenges and podcasts that the kitchen is always the first place that we recommend to people that they start because it's the emotionally most simple, should I say? Nothing simple really, is it, in the decluttering world? But it
Mhm.
is certainly simpler than sentimental items and photographs. So yeah, we start with the kitchen. We follow a very similar pattern to we do in our roadmap in the membership. And we go through room by room through your entire house. So just say what the chapters are, Ingrid. That's probably just so people. I think we know what rooms are in our house, right? But let's just talk about them, yeah?
Yes, so we're going to do the kitchen first, then the bathroom, then the bedroom. Then we talk about indoor storage areas like your loft, your basement, storage units. Then we talk about outdoor storage areas, your garages, sheds, outhouses, those kinds of areas. Then we look at the hallway. Then we have a whole chapter about books because we know books can be, tricky. Then the living room, and then sentimental items. So those are the order in which we have put the rooms in, with sentimental items last because they are the most tricky to do.
Yes, absolutely. So it just goes as you would through the thinking and the doing of each of those rooms in each individual chapter. And if you want to know more, then you're basically going to have to read the book.
Yes, exactly. And what's nice as well is that after all of the different rooms and areas, we also have a chapter on how to keep your clutter at bay because you have to do maintenance in your house. Because otherwise, the clutter will creep back in. So there are things you need to do daily, weekly, and seasonally to stay on top of your home. And we've actually devoted a whole chapter about that as well.
Yeah, and I think it was really important to us as well. So whatever we do, wherever we're working, we always want people to take a moment to reflect on what they've
Mhm.
learned, what they have done, to celebrate the wins. And so we don't want people to just rattle through the whole thing. So we urge people to kind of to take a moment at certain points in the book and to go, okay, what have you learned so far? How does that relate to you and things like that? So just little call out, take a moment pieces as well, which we definitely 100% wanted in there as well. So it's exciting. It's light-hearted, like Ingrid and I are, but it's detailed and extensive. It delves deep. I think you're going to like it.
Well, the funny thing was, Leslie, because of course over time, you wrote the chapters one at a time, and then we got Ollie got her revisions back and we changed it. So we actually read the whole book in kind of snips as well over time, right? In snippets over time.
Yeah.
And then at the start of, I think it was October last year, it all came together and we kind of got our first draft, didn't we? And then Holly said, now read it through in one go and see like how it all works. And I remember just reading it and going, wow, this is such a good book. This is everything I think that we could ever have hoped for the book to be. I was so incredibly proud, and it reads so well as well. You did such a good job on the writing, Leslie, and on the examples that we give and the structure, and it's really well put together. And I think I because I kind of knew it was going to be a good book, but when I read it all in one go, I was like, oh my word, it's really good. And I know that sounds maybe a bit crazy, but because you're working on something for such a long time, I think, and you read it in bits and pieces, you kind of sometimes forget the bigger picture. And I think that really showed me like, oh wow. And then I could see the illustrations kind of coming together, and then the copy editor got involved and the indexer got involved, and it all starts to become a book and not just kind of loose articles and loose bits and loose chapters here and there.
I think for me, I think I got so bored reading it. writing it and reading it. Because obviously when you write and you keep having to, every time you go back to something, you got to read everything that you've written so far and then keep revising it. Ugh. So anyway, so I think I kind of probably skim read it at that point. But I think the point at which I read it um, was when we were recording the audio version, right? So
Mm,
that was another thing, wasn't it, as
I
well?
know.
So this was quite recently, right? Just before Christmas.
Yeah.
We went into the studio in London to record the audiobook. And so that was really exciting. So Ingrid and I have split it. And so we read half of the audiobook each. And so that was exciting because, but I was reading it like, did I write this? This is quite good. Like, yeah, I think somebody else has written that. Do you know what I mean? So it was quite fun. So that was fun doing the audiobook because that's something again, it's so nice, England, I don't say our age and everything, but I mean, to get to this stage in life, to be able to put a book together and to be able to have these experiences like going into an audio studio and, understanding the process of an audio book and how that all fits together.
Yeah.
These are experiences that, a lot of people don't have. And so we can't take these things for granted. So we loved it. Sadly, we couldn't do it together because obviously it was one person and one person, but we did meet for lunch in the middle, didn't we?
Hmm.
So we had a handover where I'd done my kind of, I did 1.5 days and then Ingrid did 1.5 days. And so in the middle half lunchtime, we had lunch and we enjoyed it together, didn't we? So yeah, the audiobook was really cool as well. So I think really, Ingrid, now we're in the period of it's a week to
I know.
publication. Now, guys, it's over to you because we need you guys to make this book a huge success. And we know so many people, thank you so much, have already said that you pre-ordered the book already. Everybody is talking about the book. Everyone is pre-ordering the book and trying to support us, and we can't thank you enough for that because it means such a lot to us. So thank you for doing that. But if you haven't,
Yeah.
now's your time, because I
Yeah.
think the important thing for us to explain really is how things in our understanding, and we don't understand it fully, but our understanding is that this pre-order period, so the sort of the couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks before publication, what then happens is that all of the pre-orders kind of almost get kind of joined together. They all go out on publication day. And so Amazon or whoever, like the booksellers, think, whoa, this is a popular book. All of those pre-orders have gone in. And then that boosts you in the kind of ratings and rankings and things like that in Amazon, which gives you more of a possibility to get out there to a wider audience in terms of pushing the algorithm and all those kind of things. So this pre-order period is a really, really important period to dictate the success of the book, I think,
Yeah.
isn't it, Ingrid? So we are urging you, if you possibly can, and you feel that you want the book, try and do that if you can before the 27th. If you don't get around to it, or you're listening to this podcast after the 27th, you can still buy it and it's still amazing. But it would be amazing if it was before the 27th, because that would give the book a big boost, and that's important to us, isn't it?
So yes, if you're ready to help us out and order the book, go to declutterhub.com/book. You can find us on Amazon here in the UK and just type in Reset Your Home and you will find it. You can go to Bloomsbury. All of the big booksellers will hopefully have our book. It will be available on as an ebook, as an audiobook. Um, and here in the UK, it will be the 27th of February that it's coming out. US and Canada will have their paperback coming out at the end of June, on the 24th of June. We're not sure about any other countries and dates, but if you go to declutterhub.com/book, we will keep you posted. So yes, this is like a super exciting week for us.
Yes, it definitely is. If you are in the US and Canada, of course, the audiobook and the ebook is available now, so you don't need to wait until June for that, which is incredible. And of course, what we've not mentioned is it's going to be in bookshops. So literally, Ingrid and I are going to be together on book launch day, and we will, of course, be going into Waterstones on Piccadilly to look at our book on the shelf. How exciting is that? Well, we hope. We hope.
I
We'll be like
know.
looking. If it's not there, we'll be like, where is it? Excuse me. Excuse me. There should be a book here.
I know. We are published authors since of today.
You know what you can do though, apparently, if you are an author, published author, you are entitled, like legally, to go into any bookshop in the UK and do a book signing.
Wow.
Ingrid's all over that, aren't you? Ingrid will be like,
I
okay,
am up. Yeah.
Waterstones in Piccadilly, I'm here, ready for my books to be signed. I am a published author as of today. So yeah,
Yeah.
Ingrid will do all the marketing and publicity single-handedly on Piccadilly in London. So but yeah, this is a big thing for us, and because it's a big thing for us, we're doing more fun stuff next week, aren't we, Ingrid? What are we doing
Yes.
next week? Talking about Ingrid doing it all single-handedly and loving what she is. Ingrid?
Well, we thought because of course we want to celebrate the fact that we, have written a book and that it's going to be published. So we have decided that next week you're going to have a podcast every day for the first time. So normally we have a new episode every Friday. This is the Friday before the week that our book is coming out. And next week we're doing Ingrid and Leslie week, and we're going to go live with a podcast every single day, just because we wanted to treat you and we want you to get to know the people behind Ingrid and Leslie. I mean, we share stories and we, things of us, but yeah, we've recorded 4 extra podcasts next to our normal podcast on a Friday to kind of celebrate with you that we've got a book coming out. So yeah.
I know I'm sort of regretting the decision to call it Ingrid and Leslie week, because it does seem quite kind of weird. But we were kind of in a bit, we just had to make a decision really quickly. And I'm like, it's literally just Ingrid and Leslie week, So not necessarily, I mean, it is about decluttering. It's about certain elements of our lives that we don't necessarily talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit more focused on us, the published
Yeah.
authors, as of this week.
I know that sounds very weird, Leslie. Still, I get used to it though. I can get used to
Of
it.
course you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
If ever there was someone that was born to be that, it's Ingrid.
So we really hope that you're going to enjoy all of those extra podcasts that we're going to come out. So keep an eye on your podcast player. Don't forget that subscribe or follow button, because then you're not going to miss them. But if you're suddenly wondering, wow, why is there like an episode every day? It was meant to be like that. And we just really wanted to give you some extra episodes to enjoy while we're hopefully, having a successful countdown to Thursday, the 27th of February. And any details about the book, go to declutterhub.com/book.
Thank you. Exciting. It's like the most kind of high energy. No, it's not the most high energy podcast we've ever done, but it's up there, right? It's up there in terms of excitement. So it's just a shame we can't record this together. We're like so excited. We just can't be together really, but we are on publication day, Ingrid, aren't we?
Yes,
That's
we will be together. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Do you think we'll get to the end of publication day?
Well, I would hope so, because I definitely want to toast and have a glass of bubbly with you to celebrate
that's the point that
fact.
I'm trying to make. Like, we might just do too much toasting on publication day, not get to the end of it, and then we'll have to get up the following day and do a day's work. But no, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for anybody who has pre-ordered the book. Thank you so much in advance if you decide to hit that buy button. That's incredible. And yeah, exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you already in advance, also on behalf of me, for ordering and pre-ordering this book. It means a lot. And we appreciate you, and enjoy Ingrid and Leslie week next week. So see you on Monday.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.